All right, I wanted to try something completely different. You guys know that in the past, I have done my own collection videos, but I wanted to do something different today and show somebody else's collection video for a change, because you guys have pretty much seen the majority of my crap. So I'm here with Matt, and we are going to be looking at his absolutely amazing Atari Vectrix ColecoVision. I mean, he collects all kinds of stuff, but it's mostly, would you say this is mostly Atari or yeah, what?
Yeah, definitely mostly Atari. Mostly
Atari 2600 or 7800, just Atari in general. We have a little bit of history. You guys might remember the Angry Video Game Nerd episode. I think it was the Spielberg Games episode. I was going around a convention one day. I'm looking around and I come up to a table and I see all these Atari imports, and I come upon this table and I see a game called E.T. Go Come, and I'm like, that's going in the episode. He's the guy right here that sold me the game. So, you've already, in a way, been part of our channel.
And I remember seeing it. I was like, wow, you know what? You got that from me.
Exactly. All right, now he's got games all over the place, but we're just going to go through shelf by shelf and, pick out some random things. So let's start over here. I noticed this one sticking out right here happens to be popping out further, so it's sort of catching my eye. What's the deal with this here? This Omega Race. It's got a
it was a company called CBS Electronics, and with this one there was a handle that went over top of your joystick, and so it was like I call it the booster grip.
Mountain King. This is a game that I used to play all the time when I was in college, and there was a really cool glitch that you can do in this game where you go around the levels and you make this little character kind of go into the sky, and there's this weird thing that happens where you can sort of glitch this character into heaven. Yeah.
Oh, really?
It's this weird area that you can get into, but there's all these specific things that you have to do. I think you have to plug in a paddle controller at one point and all this weird stuff to make this very odd trick happen, which we talked about that at one point in some video that we did. But hey, I'm gonna be that guy. Did you know that Gorf is actually frog backwards? That's pretty funny, isn't it?
Wow.
What I do with my collection, I separate them out. I don't know if you do the same thing. I keep all the ones pictured on one shelf and all the ones not pictured on another shelf.
You know what's weird is all my Atari stuff is pretty...
Looks pretty organized.
Organized, yeah. And the only thing I would say is pretty much kind of not organized is the actual Black Label Atari stuff. Just the Black Label, the text version, it was the black and white, it was just the black manual. If you got into the picture, it was normally the white manual.
Right.
Now what gets crazy is, there's a lot of the same game, but, so the box will have the year on it, the manual and the game cartridge all has to match with the same year. And when you buy a lot of times box games, you can see them mix match. People will just put it together, not realizing it's not actual a match.
So sometimes that's the only difference between certain ones is they're printed in a different year?
Yeah.
Okay. I know with NES collectors, a lot of times they might collect the same game over and over because one has a different number on it, or it might have different screws on the back or something like that.
3 and 5.
Yeah. I think I have a version, I'm sure you have it, of Indiana Jones, how there's a different version of Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
There you go. Right there it is right there. Yeah, that one.
So, yeah.
That says Raiders Lost Ark, and then there's a regular version that says Raiders of the Lost Ark, right?
Yeah, and same thing. This was made by Atari Corp. 1986. It was definitely a later release.
And I love the names. It's just blackjack, math, race. They wouldn't do that now. Everything's got to have this elaborate, title. Back then, it was just golf, asteroids, baseball. That's it. Look at all these different baseballs. Look how many baseballs there are. You got yellow, orange, green, and I bet the color is the only difference. And see, he's got 3 that are yellow. So why?
The numbers on the bottom.
The numbers on the bottom are different.
Department store.
Oh, the department store. Now these should look classic to anybody who knows Atari, because these are the Activision games. My favorite Atari game of all time is Kaboom, this right here. And it was my favorite because video games, I think, are, when you're playing the games, are it's a form of escape. It's like when you watch a movie. You sit back, you watch the movie, and you escape from the real world. You play a video game, same thing. You can escape by playing any Atari game, but I find that Kaboom in particular is an escape because when you're playing the game, if you want to do well at all, you cannot let those bombs drop to the bottom. So you have to be completely 100% focused on moving the paddle back and forth and catching the bomb. And if you want to do well at the game, I think it's kind of like you go into sort of a Zen-like trance to catch all those buckets.
You have to.
So I love it because of that, because it's a complete escape from the real world.
My two would probably be Frostbite.
I love Frostbite.
And Sequest.
When I was a kid, I loved the way they did their box art for Atari, like their Spider-Man and their Frogger and the way the cartridges looked. I liked how they did that a lot better than the M Network games. I hated those as a kid because of the way the shape was, and they were like kind of hard to read. They didn't fit anywhere, exactly. So they did a great job on that. Now, what might be interesting to a lot of you guys to know is that there were Sega games as well on Atari. You got Star Trek, Congo Bongo. Like, I don't personally have an interest in collecting like every like PS3 game or like Switch game or something like that. And like, I can't imagine, like, this is the kind of stuff I would want to collect, you know, and that I do collect, or like NES games and stuff. But there are plenty of people out there that do collect. I know there's people that want every single Switch game and want every single, you know, of the modern games. So it's just kind of like, it's not my thing. Like, everything that I want it to be like legit, and the retro stuff, like that's what I care about. If it's, you know, beyond a certain era, I'm like, I don't care.
And it's weird, like, you know, most people appreciate when they see this, you know, like, wow, cool, you collect. There's always one or two people that hate it. They think that you don't play it.
I know certain collectors that just collect NES games, and they don't play them. They just let them rot and sit on the shelf. How old were you when you started?
I would say 19-ish.
19.
You know. Yeah, give or take.
So
you know.
You've been, I don't know how old you are now, but so you've been collecting for
It's about 25 years. 25
years of collecting, and is most of it been like at like flea markets, or like where do you get a lot of stuff? I'm sure a lot of people wonder.
It started off with flea markets because the internet really wasn't a thing. So that was probably about 1995, I guess. So yeah, it was flea markets primarily, and that was really before any kind of collecting craze started.
What if? So this is a home brew for the Supercharger. That's interesting.
It's kind of
I've never seen something like that.
What's the Odyssey game? Munchman?
Casey Munchkin?
Casey Munchkin.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to that. The guy who made this, you know, this is Atari age, and, you know, people are all over the place, and I was looking at him like, he actually lived probably about 5 miles from here.
Oh, really?
So I contacted him, and he's like, yeah, man, come on over. So I went over, we're sitting in his basement, and it turned out to be a pretty fun game, you know, like once with the programmer, he was actually, you know, going in depth on how to play, and it actually helped out.
So for all you guys who are going to be playing these now after this video, forget all those. You want to be playing What If. What If. That's the one you want. So this is Cuba Color. I actually do not know anything about Cuba Color. Can you, what is the deal with this game again? So
it was iMagic.
Okay. Is it a game that never came out?
Yeah, it was finished. It was never released. Rob Fullup is the one that made it, and he ended up selling it in the 90s.
So he was one of the designers who coded a bunch of Atari games. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess he had so many copies laying around, and
so he had this himself.
Yeah, he just kept it. Yeah. So once the crash happened, he just took the carts. As far as I know, he took the carts, and then he just hoarded them until the mid 90s.
Well, I'll be on my way. No. All right, so we moved around the room. I just have to mention, there's so many things in this room. There was a million other things on that shelf, so this video would be 10,000 hours long if we did everything. So maybe another day. But we're going to move over to this shelf so you guys can check out some of this. These are all imports, and I collect these myself, but I have about this many. This is nuts. This is crazy. And I have a lot of these ones down here. Now, are these is this Brazil or what?
No,
I don't even know.
All over yeah, they were. I mean, a lot of them were NTSC. Some were PAL. I think the common name would be Taiwan Cooper, I think.
Taiwan Cooper, yeah. And then I think some of them are also German, because I can see some
Yeah.
A little German in here. So it's just from all over the world. So we like to laugh a lot about Fred Fucks. We have a character for AVGN called Fred Fucks because in the Bram Stoker video that we did, the Dracula video, there's a producer and his name is Fred Fucks, spelt like that. But the nerd character's like, fuck, Fred Fucks, or, you know, it's just like sort of a ridiculous thing. But I always thought that was funny that there's a video game called Fuck. There it is right there. So I guess I believe these are all the German ones, and there are just so many. Hey, you all remember the Top Gun game for NES? Well, this is the one you should really be playing right here. What are you guys doing?
I thought that was hard planning.
Yeah, come on.
My first import game was from Canada. I think it was Earth Attack, I think. So I remember getting in, I was like, wow, this is really weird. I've never seen this before. And then that was really like the start of my import stuff. You know, it was just, and same thing, I had no idea what I was getting involved, you know, like what I was getting myself into. I have to
wonder, what I've always wondered about this, you know, since we're in the US, I always wondered, is there a guy in Germany that is collecting them all? And since you guys are worldwide, are you a German Atari collector that has a complete German collection? We're taking a trip to Germany to look at your collection. Or anywhere else, like, you know, in Brazil. Is there a guy in Brazil that collects these? Or is it that we're just weird Americans and we're collecting all this stuff? Is it all?
Well, I think a lot of them collect their region, you know, and then a lot of them, most countries collect our games. You know, it's really popular.
Yeah.
You know, but I think a lot of them do collect their
own.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for you guys that collect NES, you know, if the Atari stuff isn't interesting to you and you're more of an NES guy, why this is interesting and what the equivalent would be for NES, there was like Hess games and Sachin and Gluck and all those type of games. This is the equivalent for Atari. You had you know, all these, you know, carts from other countries, Germany and whatever. And he was just telling me an interesting story about how, you know, sometimes people will call these bootlegs, and it's not really fair to call these bootlegs. These are just games that were released in other countries. Because, you know, if you're a kid and you're in Brazil or Germany or wherever, like this is what they grew up with. These are not bootlegs. So
in their eyes, it isn't. I mean, like technically it would be, but just how sometimes people will phrase it, like, oh, that's just a bootleg, not realizing that was a memorable time in a childhood's.
It can make somebody feel bad.
Yeah, you know, and it was. And maybe that's all they had. They didn't have access to an official Atari, you know, release in America where they're at.
But for them, this was it.
You know, so it just, you know, so sometimes, you know, I think most people have respect. I mean, a lot of it's PAL and it doesn't play, and they already have the real version over there. And I get why they don't collect it. And you know, it's totally fine. This is definitely out of control. I mean, it is. I mean.
All right, we are on the other side of the room, and I think you've got some of your really rare stuff over here.
Yeah, the Holy Grail, as they would say.
He's got his Holy Grail area, so let's go through the different things. Now, first of all, I'd like to pull this one out. Now, we got a Star Wars thing here. You'll notice that it says Revenge of the Jedi, and what people used to say, what was the original title of Return of the Jedi? And people go, oh, I know the answer to that. It was Revenge of the Jedi. But did you actually know, Star Wars fans? And I bet there's enough Star Wars fans out there that have already called me on this. But the original title of Return of the Jedi was Return of the Jedi. And then they changed it to Revenge of the Jedi, which I guess was the point in which they produced this. And then finally when the movie came out, it was Return of the Jedi again. But so this is what, a rare version of
just a demo box. There's no box. There's no game in it. It was just, and there's nothing on the backside.
This for them just to like put in a store and like show.
Just to, you know, up what's, you know, it's going to be. There will be a game
it's up and coming in several months. Okay, I have a copy of Music Machine. I do not have Lockjaw, and then off your rocker is just a label. Yeah. So, and it says Amiga. So was there a labeled version, or what's the deal with that?
No, that was it. That's how they sold them.
That's how I always love this because it looks like a Chutes and Ladders, kind of like a very like young kid kind of thing, and I think it's I just always I like that. It's like a Sesame Street kind of thing or something. Word Scramble. These are very rare games. James got me a copy of this because I didn't own it. Another very rare game, but again, I don't have it in the box. I mean, I know pretty much everything there is to know about these games at this point, but it was cool. They were done by Wizard Video, which also did a lot of horror movies back in the day. I think I have a Space Invaders in the box too. Why would you have this on your rare shelf? What's the deal with this?
Because of the silver box.
Oh, okay. So just it's a sort of a variant of boxes. Okay, and this version is a rare version of the box, so that's cool. All right, so what do we got here? It looks like an Atari 2600, sort of, but it's got an Activision logo on it.
So this looks like, you know, like maybe something that someone would just slap on there, but no, this was actually a real thing in Brazil with an actual, you know.
So if you bought an Atari in Brazil, it would look like this, or this is one type.
Just one from that company called Dismac.
But it's crazy because it actually has the Activision logo on it.
But I think this was probably one of the first runs, I think, from this company. And so yeah, they put the Activision logo on it, and I think Activision caught wind of it early, and then the production stopped on this.
Uh-oh. And it's another Atari console. This is the Dactar. It sounds like a He-Man villain. I am Dactar.
So yeah, Dactar, they made the 007 line. So they had it built into a briefcase.
It's crazy. I've never seen anything like that. And it's actually built in. I wonder why they would do that. And they have like little slots here. I wonder if for a second I was like, oh, you put the NES controllers in here. No, you maybe put a games in there or something?
They had games that went in here. And then you just turn like this Pac-Man looking thing to get it out.
That is weird. Now what is that? Where does that come from?
So this came from Argentina. And like I said, this is the second one I've ever seen. And most people online have never even seen this. Even some of like the hardcore collectors.
I've never seen it myself, yeah.
And it's called the Blue Goblin.
Look at that AC adapter. And of course it's like, you know, it's not like our AC adapters. That's, you know, you can't plug that in.
And what's weird, everything from Argentina is PAL. Even though it's right next to Brazil. Because Brazil, I think it was called MPAL.
MPAL.
And which it's worked, everything was pretty much, for the most part, compatible with us.
And I see you have that next to another blue system there. Is that connected to this? Because it also looks like, it looks kind of the same.
From Bit Corporation.
Okay.
And so then Taiwan.
What's that underneath there? What's that white one? I'm just curious.
It's called a High Score. This was
again, looks like a Famicom.
Made in Australia.
The High Score MK1. I initially came in this room, which is crazy. This is a different room, by the way. And I looked at this and I was like, oh, this looks like he's got some beer sitting there. I thought this would get like a 6-pack. It's not a 6-pack. This is actually a game console, which just looks like an Atari or something. Is this an Atari?
Yeah, it's like an Atari Junior.
It's an Atari Junior. That's a cool box. I don't know if I've ever seen this before. How rare is this? Hard to find? It must be pretty hard to find. Look at this guy. he is having fun. They always do these things back there when they show the whole family together, and I have not seen that particular picture. Even the cat's in on the action.
Wait,
the whole family.
Real quick, he's not even looking at the game. He's surprised by something off camera.
Yeah, he's looking this way. Yeah. I'm laughing out loud. Sorry. I just saw one. It says Donald Duck. But right. Oh my God, it says Donald Duck, but there's a scorpion monster on it.
All right, so Donald Duck. You do know that there was they were supposed to release that, and that was just a only a prototype.
Right. Because I know there's also a Bugs Bunny that was a prototype. Right.
It was actually released in Brazil.
Oh my God.
And I believe only 2 companies ever actually released it.
So you should know this. You probably don't know this about me. I'm an avid Donald Duck, like Karl Barks comic book collector person. Like I have a full collection of all the old Dell comics from the 1950s and whatever. Love Donald Duck. So this is super interesting to me. Like I would literally stream this. Lost Donald Duck game. I did a whole video about Donald Duck games. This certainly was not included. The Donald Duck game with the giant killer scorpion. Yeah, I missed out on that one. The Brazilian Supercharger Atari games, which I didn't even know there was a variant like that in another country. And I guess this is the actual device here for it. This is what you plug into the Atari, and then this plugs into a cassette player to be able to play the cassette games. So here you go. Here's the Brazilian version of the Supercharger.
Now Brazil did have its own Supercharger, just like how we have with the unit.
Yeah.
They have one of it's I forget who made that one.
So that exists as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Now some of these boxes were pretty neat. The company called Cosmovision.
And there's Frostbite. So my girlfriend did a whole video on Frostbite. Hey Aaron, you ever see this one? This is the Brazilian Frostbite right there. I actually love that game, and the polar bear on the game is black, which is interesting because the polar bears usually are white. It just says ET with a piece of tape. That's just, I don't know. Do you know? He's like, he doesn't know either. All right, so he has so much stuff here. This is a video that probably has already gone on a long time. This could go on forever. It's a crazy collection. I've never seen an Atari collection like this in my life. It's super impressive. You know, I'm hoping from here maybe we can go on and look at some other people's collections, maybe for, you know, NES games or whatever. So if you have collections yourselves, you know, let us know in the comments below. I really appreciate you taking the time out today to show us all this stuff, and thanks for the great stories and everything.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.